People love this subject. Most people don't. I will tell you that right off the bat. It's a subject, though, that totally affects us every single day of our life. Definitely does. And, yeah, it causes controversies. It causes fights. It causes people not wanting to talk about it. It causes accusations. It causes families to be ripped apart at times. It causes people that were once close to not be close ever again. In some cases, never even speak to each other again. It's amazing what this little thing does. And we'll bring it up right now. Here's our subject for today, coming up. Who's your master? Is it God or is it money? Who's your master? It's a big question. And it really is a big question because there's a saying that my mom used to say, that money makes the world go round. Actually, no, it's God who makes the world go round and put it into place. But a lot of people believe that. In fact, when we talk about money, this is an area they go, oh man, I knew it. Because in churches, they always come back to money, don't they? You always knew it was going to happen, right? And I want to say some things today. We're going to take these things from some angles. By the way, put your shields up a little bit or let them down, either way, whatever you're going to want. The Lord may lead for me to say a few blunt little statements. It's okay. I want to tell you that when I make those statements, I'm making them to myself just as much as to anybody else. So I want you to understand that. But we got to be honest when it comes to God and money. A lot of people say that, oh, well, churches, they're always talking about money. Now, by the way, we don't. We hardly ever talk about it. Probably once or twice a year. We hardly ever do. Now, I understand the rap because in some cases, I remember my first experience of ever going to church. It was a church service. I was invited there. It was when I was a younger kid. And this is what I remember. The offering plate literally came past me like 4 times. Not once. Like here, we'll put a little thing up on the screen and say you can go in the back. But literally this thing, and I'm thinking as a little kid, I guess they didn't get enough the first time because they just keep on passing this thing. And it just kept on coming, and it just kept on coming. I've seen churches where literally it looks like you're buying peanuts at Dodger Stadium. I mean, they're like running around with the offering plate. They're doing all this stuff and all kinds of noise and everything, and blowing horns in the back and all kinds of different things for the offering as well. I've seen that. We're pretty low-key. I've seen posts online where people say it's even evil for the church to be asking for money because, to cover the expenses or whatever and all of that, and that's what the churches are after. That's kind of extreme, I think. But I've seen those on there as well. So let me just get something straight right off the bat. The church of God does not need your money. There's plenty of money out there, and God in all his power can provide. And you know how I know that? Because for 30-something years of being here, it's always been a discussion, and it's always been a concern every single year, and yet his ministry is still open. And it's still going. God is powerful. He is amazing. And it's a little bit actually arrogant of any of us to think to ourselves, the God of the universe in all his power cannot keep his church open if it's not for what comes out of my little bank account. I mean, let's face it. I don't think God is limited by what's in your or my bank account. And whether or not we're willing to give any of that up. That is totally not even the issue. So if you think that's where we're going today, it's not. It's not. But let's address the elephant in the room, if we can. It's an old saying that we know. And it's a question that each one of us has to ask ourselves. When we think of the title, who is your master, God or money? On a given week, any given week, you choose the week, Think of the days of the week that go through. Do you spend more time thinking about money and your bills and what you need to pay and how you're going to make it and how you're going to take this and what you can buy and what you can't buy and where you can go and what you can't go and all those decisions? Do we spend more time thinking about money or God? It's a very penetrating question. Now, when I ask that question, I get myself just as much. Because your master, your focus is wherever you place your biggest focus the most. Is it not? And where you place your focus the most is what you'll think about the most, it's what you'll talk about the most, and it's where you'll put your biggest effort the most. So when I looked at this particular subject in the AF 100 challenge that we're coming to, and this is the only one like it in the 14 weeks, I thought we could go the route we normally go, because in the book, if you look in the book and you're following the book, it'll go through the parable of the talents. And we've gone there before. We've talked about that before several times, and about using what God's given you and multiplying it and all those different things, and he'll give. And I thought, we've talked about it, but it's maybe made the change it's going to make. But today, I think the Lord was leading us to go to a different passage. One that I actually don't ever remember doing, which is kind of weird after all this time. And so we're going to look today at the parable of the unjust steward. The parable of the unjust steward, which is found in Luke chapter 16. And as we do that, we have a question that we need to ask ourselves honestly. Honestly. Don't ask your neighbor. Don't ask your person. Ask yourself, can God trust you with money? Think about that for a second. Now, the easiest way for us to think about that is think about others in our life, right? Because it's often easiest for us to consider a subject when we think about people we know. There are people in your life, maybe it's children, or maybe it's adult children, just people that you know, that if you needed to give them money, or there was money that you needed to give them, you would say, oh, don't give it to them. Like, let's say they had to get something or something had to be covered, and you would go along and go, well, I'm not going to give you the money, but I'll pay that bill, or I'll do whatever it is. What is it you need? I'll take care of it. Because there's a part of you in your mind that says, if I were to give them the money, I know they'll just go and do something dumb with it, right? So it's like, let's say, for instance, some people have gotten like inheritances laid out for family members. And there's different ways to do that. I won't get into that today. But let's say that you have options when you do that. Is the person going to get a total lump sum? Or is it going to be like dispersed over a certain period of time? And people have those options. And when a person chooses dispersed over a period of time, the reason that they do that is because they think, if I give them a lump sum, it'll be gone like no time. On crazy stuff. Have you ever given a child money and said, oh, go buy yourself something, and you don't go with them? That's dangerous. They come back, what in the world? Why did you spend on that? Of all the things, oh, I should have gone with you. I would have talked you out of that, right? We're like children sometimes. And often we struggle in finances and everything, but from a God perspective, we've got to ask, if you're God, are you trusting you? I know there's times he's looked at me like, what are you doing? What did you do? I made fun of Timu last week. I mean, there's a ton of this stuff going on. And one thing we know what to do with money is spend it. Spend it, spend it, spend it. It's like a sponge, and the water is the money, and it's a sponge. And so when we get more water, what do? We get a bigger sponge to suck it up. It doesn't matter how much you make. It always ends up the same way. Maybe there's a problem. Can God trust you? Because if he can, then he'll allow you to have more of it to do more with it. It's a tool, is what it is. Money is just a tool. But if he can't, and we waste it, he's not going to be giving us more of it either. So there's a process. Let's look at it here. We're going to go into verses. So starting in verse 1, it says, there was a rich man who had a manager. And charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. So let me kind of explain what was going on. He was rich, he had a bunch of possessions and everything, and he entrusted it to his manager or his steward. In this case, spiritually, that would be you or me. But in the case here, he was rich. Now, who is rich? Some of us in here might say, oh, that person's rich. No, nobody's rich. God is rich. Anything that we have is because he's allowed us then to obtain it in some way. But we are held responsible for what we do with it. So he had this manager, and charges were brought. This man was wasting his possessions. And the first question we'll ask ourselves is, are you squandering what God has entrusted to you? Let's bring up the next screen here. Any of this look familiar? Now let's go to the one on the right of the screen. How many of you have been there at least once this last week? Raise your hand. All right. In fact, say, oh, you got to be kidding. You're poking fun. I have one sitting right there right now that was given to me this morning. So, hey, like I told you, I'm going to shoot at myself while I'm doing this. I'm not being judgmental here. But I remember when Starbucks first came out. Yeah, I'm that old. I don't know when it first came out. But I remember what I thought, because I wasn't a coffee drinker or anything at the time. I still really am not a coffee drinker, but they have more than that. And I remember going by thinking, Starbucks, just a whole shop just to get coffee? That has got to be the dumbest, stupidest thing I've ever heard of. That's literally what I thought. And then I walked in for the first time, and I looked up at the menu, and I saw the prices for these things. Danny, are you holding one of those in your hand right now? Oh, okay. I thought I was really zeroing in on you, buddy. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right, thank you, COC. COC admits it back there. So, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's crazy. And then I started hearing about, here's what I said. That'll never last. That'll never last. That thing will go out of business within a year. Now they're on every corner. You got just almost as many of those as McDonald's. They're everywhere. And these things like this, like Starbucks, that used to be, like when I was younger, we had things that you could kind of consider a treat or a luxury type of thing. You just did it every once in a while. If you could. You know, things were going well and everything. So like when I was growing up and then my mom went back to work after I got to a certain age. And so once a week, once a week, we'd go out. Once a week, not once a day. Once a week. It was a treat, yes. Crazy. I didn't see it in 1971, but it started getting, yeah. And so we go, usually we'd end up at Bob's Big Boy. And I remember this very clearly because I had a grandma, everyone has one in their family, that wouldn't really pay attention to the menu. The waitress would finally get there, and then she wouldn't be ready because she wouldn't know what she wanted, even though we'd been sitting there for 25 minutes. And then every week she'd order the same thing anyways. So what was the big deal? I can order for you. I already know what you're going to have. Pappy Parker's fried chicken every single time. And we go to Bob's Big Boy, and that was a treat. We didn't eat out like 5 times a week or more. And Starbucks, there's people that have to have it like every day. I mean, every day. They literally can't. These have become in their minds must-haves. They're not luxuries anymore. These are like a part of life, must-haves. The phone. Not just any phone. In fact, if you whip out some flip phone or some crazy thing out of your pocket right now, you will literally be shamed by others around. You'll be pitied. Like how can you function with that? What iPhone model? You have the iPhone 8? What is that, from Fred Flintstone? I mean, you don't have the latest one with the latest camera. There's now like 4 or 5 cameras on the back of this thing. And there's a front camera too. And it has higher pixelization than any use of those digital cameras that we use. You don't have the latest, greatest. My first phone, our plan was $25 a month, and you got 20 minutes. No texting. What was texting? It was for emergency purposes only. You couldn't see anything on it. All you could do was dial and talk. And we never used it because we were afraid we would go over the minutes, and then the penalties got really, really high. Now people can't get their face out of it. And it's got to be the latest and the greatest and the updated. You get your iPhone Forever plan so you can exchange it and you can Can I upgrade yet? Can I upgrade yet? We use the phone so much that the phones are breaking before we even get to the upgrade time. And these things, you'll pay more for the rently lease on the phone that you had to get the top phone than the whole plan used to be. That's just the lease, not to mention anything else. The cable, the streaming. Oh, you got this service. Oh, but that doesn't have the Laker games. So you got this service. That doesn't have the Dodger games. So you got this service, and then you stream in this one, and all of this. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Must-haves, not to mention the car. People driving cars that we got no business driving because we can't afford them. But they become must-haves now. And God's up there and we're like, oh, God, I'm struggling so much. And God's going, you are? Why would that be? It's self-inflicted quite often when we think about it. Stuff that we think we cannot live without used to be a luxury. And you made decisions on whether you did it when you could. Lots of things have changed. So let's keep on. Let's keep on looking at the verse. Verse 2. How is it that I hear this of you, the master says? Give an account of your management, for you can no longer be manager. So this poor guy, oh, how unfair, right? The guy finds out, the master, the owner of all this, finds out that he's giving things and they're supposed to be managing it well, and they're not. Have we been there? I've been there. I have had to come to this realization in my life way too many times. And it came time to give an account. He says, you can no longer be a manager. Let's go to the next slide here. Let's ask ourselves the question, have there been times in our life where we've realized, this just has not gone well? Have we been willing to take an honest look, to say, God, give me an honest look. Help me to be honest about this with myself and with you. And count the costs of maybe some poor stewardship on our part. I mean, I'm the first one to sit here and admit it. I've made a lot of real dumb financial decisions and moves and things I shouldn't have done, things I shouldn't have bought, and I still struggle with that. I think we all do. But there comes a point where we have to make a decision. We have to take an honest look and we have to say, hey, am I just a victim of bad luck? Am I just a victim of society? Am I just a victim of rising expenses or not getting enough perks or not getting enough help or whatever? Or are there things that really I need to take an honest look at with God and say, maybe there's a part of this that's me. That I need to make different decisions, that I need to entrust some things. I need to lay some things over to God. I need to reprioritize. Because there's probably a lot of ministry things and different things and resources that God might want to entrust us with, but He knows we're not ready to be entrusted with them, and the reason He knows that is because of what we do with the resources we already have. So let's move on. So this is what the man thought. This is the way that he responded. He said, what shall I do? Since my master is taking the management away from him. Notice where the blame gets shifted. No responsibility here. No personal responsibility at all. Notice this. The master is, what am I going to do since my master is taking this away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. So the wheels start turning. Now, a lot of us have done this in life. When things aren't working, when things aren't coming up right, we ask all the wrong questions. We go over this a lot, right? We ask the wrong questions in life. The questions that we should be learning to do in life when things aren't adding up right, when things don't seem right, when we're struggling in a certain area, when different parts of life just aren't lining up, when we're having issues, what we should be doing, the questions we should be is we should be sitting down and we should say, God, I need your help. I don't understand. I need you to show me what am I supposed to learn here? What am I supposed to change? What do you want me to do? These are the questions that you and I should always be asking in any area, not just this. Those are the questions. But we tend not to do that. Isn't that true? We tend to go into plotting, figuring it out, coming up with a plan, motivating ourselves, doing what we got to do, rallying ourselves and somehow to make things work. Right? Kind of like a thermostat. It's kind of the way that it's set. A lot of people use this example. So, for example, I came in here this morning and it was a little bit stuffy and a little bit warm. And so what did I do? I thought, okay, it's a little stuffy, it's a little bit warm, so I need to do something to change that. So I went to the thermostat right over there, the wall, and I set it for a certain temperature so that I could try to get things back right to that temperature. I think Francine is saying that I went too low on that temperature. Probably sitting on the wrong side. This is coming from over here. But I actually didn't set it very low, but I set it lower than it was. It was the temperature, current temperature when I walked in here said it was 78. It was a little stuffy, so I put it at 75. I didn't go down to 70. I didn't do anything. I just put it at 75. So let me tell you how this works. The thermostat senses it is supposed to be at 75. So when it's at 76 or 77 or 78, it does something and rallies to change it. Okay? But then when it gets there, here's the problem. It's not a permanent change. So when it gets there, then it turns off, and what starts to happen? The temperature goes back up. No, that's also the same, the reverse in the winter when we're trying to warm things up and it's cold and all that. And that's how most people are. All of a sudden, there's no money and there's no whatever, so then we figure out what to do, and we try to rally all this stuff, and we heat things up to try to get it warm, but the problem is that it doesn't stay there, and then it just goes right back down. So we do things like a thermostat. We scheme, we plot, we figure out what we got to do. And that's what this man did. He didn't want to actually make a lasting change. He's just like, oh, how do I fix this? He didn't want to actually listen to the reason why the master was going to take the responsibilities and not entrust him with the things. He just wanted to see, what can I do to fix it? So, for example, when people have financial issues, there's different ways that they try to fix it. The first one is usually, well, how do I get more money? That'll fix it. Right? You've probably said that to yourself a million times. If I only had more money, it would fix it. I'd be able to pay that bill. I'd be able to cover that and all those type of things. But here's the question, because maybe you've been there before. When you make more money and when you get more money, then what will you do? I'll tell you what most people do. They get more expenses because now they have more money. I'll get a nicer car. I'll rent or own a nicer place, a bigger place, because I have more money now. And guess what? Then it's all gone again. We don't learn anything, myself included. Can't even tell you how many times I've gone through this cycle. So we scheme, we plot, we do that. That's what this guy did. He goes, oh, he's going to take it away. What do I do? So let's see what he did. Verse 4. So he replied, he goes, I've decided what to do, so that when I am removed from stewardship, see, he doesn't even try to fix it. That's the scary thing. He doesn't even try to fix it. Like, oh, let me just learn then to manage right. Let me just learn then to steward right. What does God say? What does the master say? Let me go to him. No, he already well, I'm going to be removed. I'm not going to change anything. So when I'm removed, people may receive me into their houses. This is what I'm going to do. Let's keep going. So summoning his master's debtors one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe? How much do you owe my master? Keep going. The man replied, I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil. So the manager told him, all right, take the bill and quickly change it to 400 gallons. And how much do you over here, Tom, how much do you owe to my employer? And then he responds. He says, oh, I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat, was the reply. Here the manager said, take that bill, let's change that to 800. So he starts making deals with people around. He starts working deals to try to find favor with men because he's not going to follow what the master had actually done. And that's what a lot of people do. They say, I'm not going to follow the ways of God. I'll just learn the ways of the world. And I'll just fit into the ways of the world. How do they do it? So the rich man's response, interesting, he said, the rich man had to admire this dishonest rascal in some ways for being so shrewd. He says, and it's true. This is a sad commentary. Remember, this is Jesus saying it, by the way. It is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of the light. And this is what perplexes the children of God quite often. Because the children of God quite often think to themselves, you got people that could care less. They say this to God even, or at least in their mind. You got people that could care less about God. You got people that could care less about honoring Him. You got people that could care less about being honest. You got people that literally cheat people, mess with people, do all kinds of things. And look at how much they have. They don't seem to have this problem. I know a lot of you have thought that. A lot of you said, I've thought that. And even Jesus says it here. Oh, yeah, the people of the world know how to work it. So he says, here's the lesson. We're going to have worldly resources because that's all money is. You realize that, right? All your money, big amount or small amount, you won't take any of it with you. Billy Graham used to say it. You never see anyone go into heaven pulling a U-Haul truck behind them. It's not going to be there. You take none of it. He who dies with the most toys is still dead. Someone else takes it, and half of it they throw out, or it goes to Goodwill or Salvation. You go in a Salvation Army or a Goodwill store, and when you go and you look around the racks and you look at everything, that used to be in somebody else's house. That used to be somebody else's treasure. Half of them either didn't want it or they're dead now. That real nice suit that you have, that real nice suit jacket that you got, that guy's probably dead. That's why it's there. Because his kids or his grandkids or somebody went and they had to clear out the closet and they didn't want to just throw it away, so they gave it. And now it's on you. And eventually you'll be dead too. It's just the truth. Well, I said we were going to be honest here, right? So what are these? They're worldly resources. They're only with us for now. We got to understand that. They're not all they're made out to be. We're going to spend all our effort and all our time and go, I got to have it, I got to have it, I got to have it. And it's just going to break. It's just going to tear. It's just going to wear out. You're not taking it with you. It has no eternal value. And the fact that everything has to be about that has been the biggest deception and lie. Because when you do finally get it and you think it's going to just literally completely change your life, after about 3 days you're like, it's not that big a deal. I still had struggled with this. I still feel this. Life is still life, even though I got it. Now what? So the Master says here, and God would be telling us this morning, hey, those worldly resources, here's why you should get them. Here's what you should do with them. Here's why they should matter to you. Here's why you should learn how to earn it. Here's why you should learn how to maximize it. Why? Not for yourself. To benefit others. To benefit others. And yeah, even make some friends. You know what's sad? Some of us, we're believers and everything, and we're like, I don't want to make any friends. What's happened? I get that. You know why we don't want to make friends? Because sometimes friends hurt us. You know why we don't want to sometimes know more people and greet more people and be involved with more people? Because that gets messy. I get that. But there's a reason. That's earthly thinking. That's how we think when we think about the here and now. People are messy. People are tiring. People hurt us. People betray us. People disappoint us. Yes, but people need the Lord. That's the issue. That's why we need to care about other people. Because eternity is at stake. So whether it's money, whether it's talents, whether it's your gifts, whether it's your time, whether it's your abilities, whether it's whatever opportunities you have, what we should be thinking about every single day is not how can I get, accumulate, buy, but how can I bless others? Now, if that's the case, and when it comes to money, I say this to God. If I'm going to use it for that purpose, give me as much as you want. Not for me, so that I can faithfully turn around and use it to bless and encourage and do more. Not for the stuff, not for the things. I mean, you may do some stuff and you may do some things, but just think of all the things that at times you've wanted to do. An opportunity has come up and you want it. I wish I could help here. I wish I could do this project here. I wish I could just give the money and so that it could be done. And you can't. But if we trace back, we realize that no, actually, if we're really honest with ourselves, we actually in a lot of cases had that money. We just systematically spent it on things that weren't really even necessary. You know, most people make over $1 million in their lifetime. They do. When you add it all up over the course of a whole life, think to yourself, if you're older right now, if you're not like 18 or something like that, think to yourself how much, if you were to add up everything you've ever earned and ever made, how much would it add up to? And you might be startled by how much. But how much of it is available to you right now? So let's keep going. Then when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you to you. Where are you going to enjoy the fruit of everything? Eternity. Wouldn't it be great to know that we make our life count for eternity? We're here to make a difference. Right? You're here, you're living, you're breathing. If you know the Lord this morning, you are here only to worship Him, honor Him, be a light for Him, and to make a difference. It's the only reason we're still here. Verse 10, if you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. If you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And this is what he's telling us. We are who we are, and we need to learn to be all God wants us to be wherever we are financially or whatever it is. Because all that more resources do is just magnify character. That's all it does. So if we have big-time character problems and flaws, when we don't have as much as we would want to have, it's not because we don't have it. If we had more, it would just magnify the same character. It wouldn't change anything. In fact, in some cases, it would be worse. Because how much trouble do you not get in right now just because you can't afford it? How much more trouble might you get in? If you get in trouble now, how much more might you get in if you could afford it? Think about that. Whatever it is, the Lord, he says, look, you already show me. So what's our answer this morning? Ask him and grow. Verse 13, no one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. So this goes back to the question that we started off with right in the beginning. That's the title of our thing this morning. Who is your master? God or money? Now we're going to wrap it up with just a few thoughts to consider. There's so many things and issues that get discussed in the church. Tithing, for instance. People do not like to talk about tithing. And like I said early on, God keeps his ministry going whether or not you do or whether you don't. That's not the issue. It's a spiritual issue. It's an issue for you in your relationship with the Lord and how things work. Whether it's tithing or offering, I mean, we can go back and forth on all that. The Bible says tithe and offerings. Tithing sounds more like an obligation. Offering sounds more like a free will. We can go all around with it. Doesn't really matter what we want to call it. But there's an issue when it comes to giving that has to do with what we think about God and how much we trust him and where we put him. So, for example, at many times in my life, and even now at times, there may be times when things are shorter, and I may say, oh yeah, I really need to give and everything, but I just can't right now. I can't because I got this coming up and this obligation coming up and this obligation coming up. I just can't. So when I get back on my feet, a lot of us spend time off our feet, right, it seems. When I get back on my feet, then I'll do it. Well, you already know how that works. When's the last time you felt like you were on your feet? In a lot of cases, we don't, right? There's always another bill. There's always another month. Right now, what's the date right now? It's coming to the end of the month pretty soon. How many people hate the end of the month? You hate the end of the month because at the end of the month comes the first of the month? And at the first of the month, there's the rent or there's the mortgages or whatever it is quite often, and they're like, hand it over. Every month, without fail. When's the last time they called you up and go, hey, just so you know, we decided this month you don't have to pay. It's your birthday this month. We'll forget about it this month. When's the last time that happened? It's Christmas time. It's December. I know you got gifts to buy. Don't worry about it this month. First of the month comes, everything starts, and we go, I can't. I'll once I catch up, then I'll give. Because I got to fix this. I got to get this right. What we're doing, though, let's understand what we're doing when we do that. We're saying to God, God, I can't trust you enough to make this work. I got to make sure I get this taken care of. Let me fix this first, and then I'll give. Who are we worshiping here? How small is our God? So even if I considered it a tithe, it was just something I did automatically, and I went 10%, and out of every $100, he lets me use 90 of it, and I'm just going to give 10. We're telling the God of the universe that he's not powerful enough with just giving him the 10 of the 100 to make things work. I don't know. Think to ourselves here. So we got to think, what's the master? What's the old saying? Is the tail wagging the dog, or is the dog wagging the tail? Try to parse that one out and figure that one out for you if you want. But what's wagging who? Is God setting the course of our life? Or are we in our resources setting it and then God comes after that? Which one? So these are all questions we got to ask. But as we close this morning, I just want you to ask yourself honestly. As the Word tells us, we seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. That's first. And then He says, everything else will be added unto you. And there comes a point, and sometimes several points in people's lives, where they have to not only know that verse, but they have to reckon with it in their own heart and say, do I believe Him or not? Will that be the rule no matter what's going on, no matter what my bank account says? He gets the first fruits or not? That's the decision we all must make. But I will tell you this. The greatest decisions that some of the greatest decisions God's ever had me make have been the times when it's made no logical sense and I said, okay, this is what you say, so I'm going to do it. Even though I have no idea how this is going to be paid, how this is going to be done, how this is going to be whatever. And I got to tell you, the results and how He has come through over and over and over and over again is nothing short of amazing. You know, I don't know what's going on, but this subject like half cleared the room this morning. Did you notice that? There's like way less people in here than when we started. They're all in the hallway. They're getting as far away from me as possible right now. I don't know what's going on here. But I don't think I've ever seen more people clear out. I'm going to assume this had nothing to do with it. But anyways, thank you if you're still in the room. God bless you. All right? I think it's more nursery issues and things like that. But we'll go with that. Let's have a word of prayer and pray that the Lord continues to work in our hearts. And let's give it to Him. Let's pray.